What if I told you that becoming irresistible to women has almost nothing to do with your looks, your bank account, or even the smooth lines you say? Yep. I'm talking about a kind of attraction that's so powerful, so magnetic, that 95.7% of women can't help but respond to it. And no, it's not some cheesy pickup trick or a manipulative game. It's a harsh truth rooted in Stoicism, in the ancient philosophy that taught men how to master themselves first, and in doing so, master their relationships with others. So let me break this down for you. Most guys believe that in order to win a woman over, they need to do more. More texts, more gifts, more attention, more effort. But here's the harsh truth. The more you chase, the less she values you. The more you bend yourself to please her, the less magnetic you become. Why? Because women aren't drawn to men who crumble under pressure or who seek validation at every turn. They are drawn, almost uncontrollably, to men who are calm, centered, and in control of themselves, no matter what's happening around them. Think about it for a second. Imagine two men in the exact same situation. A woman cancels on them last minute. One guy blows up, gets emotional, begs for her time, and spirals into insecurity. The other man, he shrugs, smiles, and goes on with his plans. Which one do you think she'll respect? Which one do you think she'll secretly find herself pulled toward, even if she can't fully explain why? Exactly. It's the man who isn't controlled by her actions, but by his own principles. That's Stoicism in action, and that's what makes a man stand out in a sea of needy competitors. Here's the kicker. You don't have to try to impress her when you embody this mindset. You don't have to play games or fake confidence. When you genuinely live by the Stoic principle that the obstacle is the way, every challenge, even rejection, only makes you stronger. And that strength, that's the kind of energy women feel deep in their bones. It's rare, it's valuable, and it's irresistible. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to apply this harsh truth to your life. By the end, you'll know how to flip the script and become the man she can't forget, not because you begged for her attention, but because you didn't need it in the first place. 1. Emotional control, the core of Stoic attraction. Here's the harsh truth. The number one thing that makes you irresistible isn't how many jokes you can crack, how stylish your clothes are, or even how much money you can flash. It's your ability to control your emotions when everyone else is losing theirs. Emotional control is the foundation of Stoicism, and it's the exact quality that separates men women forget tomorrow from men they can't stop thinking about. Now let me explain why. When a woman interacts with you, whether she admits it or not, she's constantly picking up on your emotional signals. If you're anxious, clingy, reactive, or desperate for approval, she feels it instantly. It's like static in the air, loud, chaotic, impossible to ignore. And the sad part, it kills attraction. Why? Because women are biologically wired to seek strength. Not just physical strength, but emotional stability. A man who can remain calm under pressure communicates, I can handle life, I can handle challenges, and if you're with me, I can handle you too. Think about Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers. This was a man who ruled an empire, faced plagues, wars, betrayals, yet he constantly reminded himself not to be ruled by anger, fear, or lust. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the same energy women crave. She doesn't want a man who crumbles when she tests him, ignores him, or pushes his buttons. She wants the man who remains unshaken, centered, and in control. Let me give you a modern example. Imagine she throws a little test your way. Maybe she cancels plans last minute or says something designed to spark jealousy. Most men either lash out or chase harder, both of which hand her the power. But the Stoic man, he doesn't flinch. He says, all good, I'll see you when I see you, and goes back to living his life. That calm indifference sends a powerful subconscious signal. I am not desperate. I don't need to control you. I control myself. And here's where it gets interesting. The less reactive you are, the more she reacts to you. Instead of you chasing her attention, she starts chasing your emotional stability. She wants to figure you out. She wants to know why you're not flustered like every other guy. That curiosity transforms into respect, and respect always leads to attraction. Here's the practical takeaway. The next time you're tempted to argue, over-explain, or prove your worth, stop. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what would a Stoic man do? 9 times out of 10, the answer is simple. Stay calm, stay grounded, and let your actions, not your emotions, speak. Remember this. Emotional control isn't about being cold or robotic. It's about being so secure in who you are that no one else, not even the woman you desire, can throw you off balance. And when you master this, you instantly become rare, because almost no men today have this level of discipline. That rarity, that's what makes you irresistible. 2. Indifference to validation. Here's another harsh truth most men don't want to hear. The more you chase her validation, the less she values you. And the more indifferent you are to whether she approves of you or not, the more she'll chase your validation. This isn't some game. It's psychology. And it's exactly why Stoicism makes you stand out in a world full of men desperate for attention. Let's break it down. Most guys operate with the mindset of, what can I do to impress her? How can I show her I'm good enough? They compliment her excessively, laugh too hard at her jokes, agree with everything she says, and text back instantly. In their minds, this is effort. In her mind, it's noise. Because what he's really saying is, please like me. Please pick me. And women can smell that desperation from a mile away. Now contrast that with the Stoic man. He doesn't live for external approval. Not from his boss, not from strangers, and certainly not from a woman. He knows his value, his mission, and his standards, so when she tries to test him with silence, mixed signals, or subtle provocations, he doesn't beg for reassurance. He doesn't crumble. He remains centered, as if to say, whether you validate me or not changes nothing about who I am. And guess what? That unshakable self-worth is intoxicating. Here's a real-world example. Imagine she doesn't text you back for hours. Most men panic. They double text, send a meme, maybe even call her. They're trying to claw back validation. But the Stoic man, he shrugs. He goes to the gym. He works on his business. He enjoys time with friends. He understands her attention is a bonus, not oxygen. And ironically, this is what makes her think about him even more. Because while other men are drowning in neediness, he's rare. He's secure. And women are wired to chase what feels rare. The philosopher Epictetus once said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, stop caring what others think of you. That's the essence of indifference to validation. And when you carry that mindset into your interactions with women, it shows. You don't flinch when she pulls away. You don't bend over backwards for scraps of attention. You're not trying to audition for her approval. And here's the kicker. When she sees that her approval doesn't define you, she'll start working harder to earn yours. Suddenly, she's dressing better for dates. She's texting you first. She's chasing the feeling of being chosen by a man who doesn't need to choose her. That reversal of roles is where real attraction is born. Practical takeaway? Stop being reactive to her attention. The next time she takes her sweet time replying, don't complain. Match her pace. The next time she tests you, smile and let it roll off your shoulders. Keep living your life like her validation doesn't even register on your radar. Because the truth is, it shouldn't. Indifference to validation isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. And when you embody that, you become magnetic. She's surrounded by men begging for approval. But you're the man who doesn't even need it. That's why she'll choose you. 3. Emotional control. One of the most irresistible traits a man can develop is emotional control. Not because you become robotic or cold, but because you stop being easy to manipulate. Let's be honest, women test men. They test for strength, for patience, for discipline. They want to see if the man they're with can stay composed when things don't go his way. And the harsh truth, most men fail these tests miserably. Think about it. She cancels plans last minute and he explodes in anger. She teases him about another guy and he becomes insecure and jealous. She pulls away for a few days and he spirals, overanalyzing every word she said. These are emotional outbursts, and nothing dries up attraction faster than a man who can't regulate himself. Now picture the Stoic man. She cancels on him. He calmly says, no problem, let's try another time, and uses the free evening to improve himself. She tries to poke his ego with a comment about another guy. He laughs because he knows his value isn't threatened by childish games. She goes cold for a few days. He doesn't chase or complain. He lets her come back on her own terms, and if she doesn't, he knows she wasn't worth his energy in the first place. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're at dinner, and she deliberately says something sharp to get a reaction. Maybe it's about how her ex used to do things differently. Most men would tense up, argue, or feel insecure. But a man with emotional control doesn't play that game. Instead, he might smile, take a sip of his drink, and smoothly redirect the conversation. That's interesting. Anyway, let's talk about your big presentation tomorrow. You've been working hard on it, right? He demonstrates that no matter what she throws his way, he remains composed and in charge of his frame. Why does this work? Because women feel safe with a man who cannot be easily rattled. If you can't control yourself, how can you handle the chaos of life, the challenges of a relationship, or the pressures of the real world? Emotional steadiness communicates strength. It says, you can test me, but you'll never break me. The Stoics had a clear philosophy on this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you internalize that, her actions stop dictating your emotions. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. That's the difference between a man she forgets and a man she obsesses over. So here's your actionable insight. The next time she pushes your buttons, don't react. Respond. Slow down. Breathe and remind yourself that your emotions belong to you, not to her. If she cancels, adapt. If she teases, laugh. If she pulls away, let her. This calmness not only keeps you grounded, but also creates a magnetic tension. She'll wonder why you're not shaken. She'll want to figure you out. And in that curiosity, attraction grows stronger. Emotional control isn't about being detached. It's about being solid. And when you carry yourself like that, you become the man who can't be moved. And in a world of emotional chaos, that makes you unforgettable. 4. Purpose over. Here's a truth many men don't realize until it's too late. If you make a woman your entire purpose, you'll lose her. Attraction dies the moment she senses you've abandoned your mission just to orbit around her. Women admire men who are driven, disciplined, and dedicated to something bigger than temporary pleasure. That's why the Stoic man is magnetic. His life is not built around chasing comfort or validation. It's built around pursuing his purpose. Think of most men today. They wake up and the highlight of their day is whether she texts them back. They neglect their workouts, ignore their ambitions, and skip opportunities just to be available for her. In their mind, this is devotion. In her mind, it's weakness. Because if a man has nothing going on in his life except her, he's showing her that she is his only source of fulfillment. And that's not attractive, it's suffocating. Now compare that with a man living by Stoic principles. His purpose comes first. If he's working on his career, building a business, training his body, or improving his mind, that remains his focus whether she's present or not. He doesn't cancel the gym just because she wants to hang out. He doesn't abandon his studies or goals just to prove how available he is. Instead, he communicates through his actions that his mission matters more than instant gratification. Here's a real example. Imagine a man training for a marathon. He's disciplined with his runs, his diet, and his sleep. His girlfriend suggests skipping practice to spend a lazy afternoon watching shows. Most men would cave, fearing that saying no makes them seem cold. But the Stoic man politely says, "I'd love to relax with you later, but right now I need to get this run in." He stays committed. And paradoxically, instead of pushing her away, this makes her respect him more, because she realizes his word means something. His goals come before temporary comfort. Or think about Marcus Aurelius himself. He was emperor of Rome, surrounded by endless distractions, power, wealth, and pleasure. Yet he wrote in his meditations that a man must waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, his legacy wasn't built on indulgence, it was built on purpose. That's what makes his wisdom timeless. Why does this matter for relationships? Because a woman feels secure and inspired when she sees a man who won't compromise his mission. If your life revolves around her, she becomes your ceiling. But if your life revolves around growth, discipline, and contribution, she will gladly walk beside you. Here's the practical takeaway. Start scheduling your life around your mission, not her moods. If you have goals to hit, protect that time. If you're building something, stay consistent even when she tempts you with distractions. The man who builds his life on purpose doesn't lose women. He attracts them without even trying. When you prioritize purpose over pleasure, you don't just gain her respect, you gain self-respect. And that's the foundation of irresistible masculinity. 5. The power of silence and emotional control. One of the most underrated yet powerful tools a man can develop is emotional control. In a world where most people are quick to react, complain, or lash out, the man who remains calm under pressure immediately stands out. Stoicism teaches us that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. A woman feels safest, most drawn, and most fascinated by a man who doesn't lose his center when things don't go his way. Let's be honest. Most men sabotage themselves by overreacting. She cancels plans and they panic. She gives them the silent treatment and they send 20 desperate texts. She criticizes them, and they explode in anger or retreat in insecurity. Each reaction tells her the same thing. I don't have control over myself. You control me, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who surrenders his emotional stability. Contrast that with the stoic man. When she tests him, and yes, women test men constantly, he doesn't flinch. If she cancels plans, he doesn't argue. He simply replies, "No problem, we'll catch up another time," and goes about his day. If she throws attitude, he doesn't get dragged into her storm. He listens, stays calm, and responds with intention rather than impulse. That composure is intoxicating to her because it signals strength. Here's a real-life scenario. Imagine a couple in an argument. She raises her voice, accuses him of not caring, and waits for him to blow up. Most men would shout back or try to prove their love in frantic words, but he simply looks at her, waits for silence, and says calmly, "I hear your frustration. Let's talk when we're both in a better space." Then he walks away. That silence, that refusal to be dragged into chaos, flips the script. Instead of seeing weakness, she sees a man who controls himself. She feels his strength not in his noise, but in his restraint. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This wisdom translates perfectly into relationships. You don't control her moods, her words, or her actions, but you do control how you respond. When she realizes she can't easily shake you, her respect for you deepens. Another example. Imagine she ignores your text for hours. Most men spiral into anxiety, send a follow-up, or start playing games. The stoic man? He simply carries on with his life, his training, his work, his mission. When she finally replies, he responds without bitterness or neediness. That calm, detached energy says everything. I am not controlled by you. I am grounded in myself, and believe me, women notice that difference instantly. The lesson here is simple. Silence is not weakness, it's power. Emotional control doesn't mean you never feel, it means you never let your feelings dictate your dignity. By mastering this, you communicate that you are a man of depth, patience, and resilience. And that kind of man doesn't just earn her attraction, he earns her trust. When you become the calm in her storm, she will always be drawn back to you. 6. Purpose above all. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the understanding that a man must live in alignment with his purpose. Without purpose, without a mission greater than himself, he drifts. And nothing is less attractive to a woman than a man who drifts. When you live without direction, without conviction, you signal to the world and to her that you can be swayed by anything. But when you have a clear path, when your life is driven by meaning, you become unshakable. The truth is this: women are naturally drawn to men who are anchored in something bigger than the relationship itself. A man whose identity revolves entirely around her will eventually repel her. Why? Because he becomes dependent, he becomes predictable, he becomes small. But the man who wakes each morning with a fire in his chest, committed to his work, his growth, and his mission, is the man she cannot ignore. Think about it. Every great figure in history, every leader, every man remembered across centuries, had one thing in common: a sense of purpose that could not be compromised. That same principle applies to your relationships today. You do not need to be a king, a general, or a philosopher, but you must stand for something. You must be building, creating, striving toward a goal that transcends fleeting emotions. A woman might enjoy your attention, your affection, your company, but what she truly admires is your direction. She wants to know that you are a man she can walk beside, not a man who will collapse under the weight of her expectations. Purpose is what creates that foundation. It tells her, without words, I know where I am going. You are welcome to join me, but my path does not end with you. Here's the paradox. The more you make her your purpose, the more she pulls away. But the more you make your purpose, the more she leans in. She senses your strength, not because you cling to her, but because you are already complete without her. That completeness, that independence makes her feel both secure and inspired. This doesn't mean neglecting her. It means refusing to neglect yourself. Your mission gives meaning to everything you do, including your relationships. When she sees that you are consistent, that you rise each day with determination, that you live by principles instead of moods, she will not only respect you, she will be drawn to you. The man who lacks purpose is like a leaf in the wind, tossed around by whatever comes his way. The man of purpose, however, is like a tree with deep roots. He does not bend easily. He does not crumble under pressure. He grows, expands, and endures. And in that endurance lies his power, his magnetism, and his ability to inspire loyalty. Purpose is not optional. It is essential. Without it, you lose yourself. With it, you gain the world. 7. The harsh truth. Here's the part most men struggle with, and it's why so many lose the women they want. They confuse caring with clinging. They think showing love means constant reassurance, endless pursuit, and making her the center of their universe. But the harsh truth, the one that makes you irresistible to 95.7% of women, is this: detachment creates desire. Stoicism teaches us not to attach our happiness to what we cannot control. A woman's feelings, her choices, her attention, these are outside your control. The moment you hinge your self-worth on them, you give away your power. And ironically, that's the moment she starts to pull back. Why? Because she senses you've made her your entire world. That doesn't inspire attraction, it suffocates it. Now, what does detachment look like? It doesn't mean coldness or cruelty. It doesn't mean ignoring her or pretending you don't care. Detachment is the discipline of balance. It's knowing you can love her, enjoy her, and value her, but never need her to complete you. You're grounded in yourself first. That inner stability makes you stand apart from other men who orbit around her approval. Let's ground this in reality. Think of the man who never texts first, never makes plans, never invests. He isn't detached, he's apathetic. That doesn't spark attraction, it creates resentment. But consider the man who gives love, yet holds his frame. If she cancels last minute, he doesn't spiral into anger or insecurity. He simply adjusts, continues with his life, and remains unshaken. That calmness is detachment in action, and it makes her wonder, what is it about him that nothing seems to rattle him? Here's another example. A man deeply invested in his purpose doesn't check his phone every 5 minutes to see if she replied. He's too busy living his life. When she sees that, she feels the pull. She realizes she's not the axis of his existence. His mission is. And because she cannot fully own him, she desires him even more. The paradox is clear. The less you cling, the closer she leans. The moment she senses you'll be fine with or without her, you unlock a powerful attraction. Not because you're playing games, but because you embody strength, independence, and inner peace. Remember this, men who attach themselves too tightly end up pushing women away. Men who detach, who maintain their center, who keep their mission above fleeting emotions, draw women in. Because women crave the man who could love them deeply yet never lose himself in the process. That balance of connection and independence is what makes you irresistible. So if you take nothing else from Stoicism, take this. You don't own her attention, you don't control her feelings, and you don't need her validation. Live by your principles, stand firm in who you are, and let detachment, not desperation, be the quiet force that makes her want you more than she can explain. We've come full circle, and now it's time to face the reality head-on. Becoming irresistible to women isn't about tricks, lines, or constant pursuit. It's about who you are at your core. It's about building yourself into the kind of man who doesn't bend at every whim, who doesn't lose himself in the chase, and who doesn't live for validation. Instead, you live for your principles, your mission, and your growth. That is what Stoicism teaches, and that is why it works. Let's quickly revisit the truth we uncovered together. Attraction begins in the mind, not with touch. It deepens when you create emotional connection, when you embrace mystery, when you hold yourself with presence and confidence. It thrives when you choose purpose over desperation, and it reaches its peak when you learn the hardest but most freeing lesson of all detachment. The less you cling, the stronger the bond becomes. The more you remain grounded in yourself, the more magnetic you are. Women may not always be able to explain why they feel this way, but they feel it. They sense your calm, your strength, your inner stability, and that energy is rare. That's why when you master it, you immediately set yourself apart from the vast majority of men who chase, who beg, who lose themselves. You are no longer part of the crowd. You are the man they remember, the man they crave, the man who cannot be easily replaced. Now here's the harsh truth you need to carry with you. Women are drawn to men who live by standards, not men who live by emotion alone. If you can embody discipline, self-respect, and a mission-driven life, you don't just attract women, you command respect everywhere you go. And once you've tasted that kind of power, you'll never go back to being the man who begs for attention. If this message resonated with you, if you're ready to become the kind of man who draws women naturally without losing himself in the process, then you're in the right place. This channel is built for men who are ready to transform their mindset, their relationships, and their lives. So here's what I want you to do. Subscribe to the channel right now and tap the notification bell icon so you never miss a video. Every week we're breaking down the psychology, the philosophy, and the strategies that will help you stand stronger, live wiser, and attract effortlessly. Don't just watch, commit. Join the brotherhood of men who are reclaiming their power. Because the truth is simple. When you master yourself, you master attraction. And that's the path we're walking together.